Imagine this, a frigid November morning in 1796, deep within the gilded labyrinth of St. Petersburg's Winter Palace. The air hangs heavy with the scent of candle wax and impending doom. Servants whisper in hushed tones as the most powerful woman in Europe, no, the world, draws her final, labored breaths. Catherine the Great, the iron-willed Empress who reshaped an empire, lies motionless on a bed draped in imperial velvet. But as her life flickers out, a venomous rumor ignites, one so grotesque, so absurd, it eclipses her legacy for centuries. They say she didn't die of a simple stroke. No. The tale twists into something darker. Crushed beneath a stallion in a fit of depraved passion, a harness snaps, a beast falls, and history's greatest female ruler is reduced to a punchline. But what if I told you this scandal wasn't just a lie? It was a weapon. A calculated smear born from fear, envy, and the unyielding patriarchy of 18th century Europe. Today, on the History Veil, we're peeling back the layers of this infamous horse myth, diving into the real life of Catherine II, a woman who conquered kingdoms, outwitted kings, and terrified the old world order. If you're ready to uncover truths that history tried to bury, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a veil lifted. Share this with a friend who loves royal scandals. Let's make history viral. Born Sophie August Friedrich von Anhalt-Zerbst on May 2, 1729, in the sleepy Prussian port of Stettin, now Szczecin, Poland, Catherine entered a world far removed from the grandeur she would one day command. Her father, Christian August, was a minor prince of a tiny German state, scraping by on military service under Frederick William I of Prussia. Her mother, Johanna Elizabeth of Holstein-Gottorp, was ambitious but frustrated, dreaming of greater things for her family. Young Sophie grew up in a modest castle, educated by French governesses in languages, dance, and etiquette, the standard toolkit for a noble girl destined for a strategic marriage. But Sophie was no ordinary child. Sharp-witted and insatiably curious, she devoured books on history, philosophy, and politics, often sneaking them under her covers by candlelight. I was born with a soul that yearned for greatness, she later wrote in her memoirs, a sentiment that propelled her from obscurity. At just 14, fate intervened like a thunderbolt. Russia's Empress Elizabeth, childless and desperate to secure the Romanov line, sought a bride for her nephew and heir, Grand Duke Peter. Elizabeth's spies scoured Europe for a suitable match, Protestant, fertile, and politically neutral. Sophie's mother, with ties to the Holstein family, maneuvered her daughter into the spotlight. In 1744, Sophie and Johanna embarked on a grueling winter journey across frozen Europe. Arriving in Moscow amid blizzards and court intrigue, the young girl, wide-eyed but resolute, faced a cultural chasm. Russia was a land of Orthodox icons, fur-clad nobles and Byzantine rituals alien to her Lutheran upbringing. Yet, as her father had advised, adapt or perish, Sophie plunged in. She converted to Orthodoxy, mastering the rituals with fervor that impressed Elizabeth. Renamed Ekaterina Alexeyevna, she immersed herself in Russian language and customs, reciting prayers until her tongue ached. This wasn't mere obedience, it was strategy. In a court rife with plots, where Elizabeth's paranoia led to midnight arrests, Catherine learned early that survival demanded camouflage. Her betrothal to Peter was a glittering affair, but the cracks showed immediately. Peter, also German-born but raised in Russia, was a peculiar boy obsessed with Prussian military drills. He played with toy soldiers while ignoring his fiancée. At 16, Catherine wed him in a lavish St. Petersburg ceremony on August 21, 1745. Amid fireworks and feasts, the union symbolized stability, but privately, it was a nightmare. Peter, immature and erratic, refused to consummate the marriage for years, preferring his mistresses and bizarre games. Catherine endured isolation, confiding in her diary, "I am alone in a foreign land, married to a man who despises me." Humiliation fueled her ambition. She turned inward, building a private library of Enlightenment thinkers, Voltaire, Montesquieu. Diderot, whose ideas on reason, governance, and reform ignited her vision, secretly, she corresponded with intellectuals, honing her intellect like a blade. Meanwhile, court life was a viper's nest. Elizabeth, fond of Catherine but suspicious, pressured her for an heir. After 8 barren years, whispers of annulment loomed. Desperate, Catherine took lovers, first Sergei Saltykov, a charming chamberlain, and in 1754, Walpole, whose paternity remains debated, some say Saltykov's, others Peter's. This secured her position, but Peter's ascent loomed like a storm cloud as Elizabeth's health waned. Catherine wove alliances. She charmed guardsmen, nobles, and clergy, positioning herself as Russia's savior. Peter's pro-Prussian leanings alienated the military, fresh from the 7 Years' War victories against Frederick the Great. When Elizabeth died on January 5, 1762, Peter III ascended, and chaos ensued. He reversed alliances, praising Prussia and insulting Orthodox traditions. Catherine, sidelined and threatened with divorce, struck back, backed by the Orlov brothers, Grigory, her lover. Leading the Imperial Guard, she orchestrated a coup on July 9, 1762. Peter was deposed, imprisoned, and mysteriously died days later, likely murdered on her orders, though she denied it. At 33, a German princess became Empress of all Russia. This bloodless revolution wasn't luck. It was 18 years of calculated endurance. But as she donned the crown, enemies plotted her downfall, setting the stage for scandals that would echo through time. What if the key to ruling the world's largest empire lay not in birthright, but in sheer cunning? As Catherine ascended the throne in 1762, she faced a Russia teetering on anarchy, vast untamed, riddled with corruption and feudal strife. But this outsider, with no Romanov blood, didn't just survive, she thrived, turning potential downfall into dominance. Hold on tight, because this part uncovers the gritty details of her rise, the lovers who fueled her power, and the enemies who sowed the seeds of that infamous myth. If you're gripped already, pause and subscribe to the History Veil, where we expose history's hidden truths. Your like and share keep the veils lifting. Catherine's early reign was a masterclass in consolidation. Peter's brief rule had alienated everyone, the church with his Lutheran flirtations, the army with his Prussian obsessions, the nobility with erratic reforms. Catherine reversed course swiftly. She donned Orthodox robes for her coronation on September 22, 1762, in Moscow's Assumption Cathedral, vowing to uphold Russian traditions. "I am Russian in soul," she proclaimed, a lie that became truth through action. She recalled troops from Prussia, restored church lands, and rewarded coup loyalists with titles and estates. Grigory Orlov, her paramour and coup architect, became a count, his brothers elevated similarly. But Catherine wasn't naive. She knew loyalty was fleeting. She established the Free Economic Society in 1765 to promote agriculture and industry, inviting Enlightenment ideas to modernize without upheaval. Yet, personal turmoil simmered. Her marriage to Peter had been a farce, unconsummated for years, marked by his cruelty and her resilience. Historians debate the exact timeline, but by the 1750s, Catherine sought solace in affairs. Saltykov, rumored father of Paul, was followed by Stanisław Poniatowski, a Polish diplomat she later installed as Poland's king. These weren't mere flings, they were political tools. Poniatowski's affair 1755 to 1758 bore a daughter, Anna, who died young, but it forged ties that aided Russia's Polish partitions. Orlov 1762 to 1772 was her most passionate, a dashing guardsman. He fathered a son, Alexei Babrinsky, legitimized later. Catherine rewarded him lavishly, but when jealousy soured their bond, she eased him out with pensions and honors. "I am not fickle," she wrote, "but circumstances demand adaptation." This pattern, serial monogamy with generous partings, fueled gossip. Europe's courts, where kings paraded mistresses, hypocritically branded her insatiable. French diplomats whispered of her harem of favorites. ignoring how her lovers doubled as advisors. Catherine's Enlightenment zeal drove her first major reform, the Legislative Commission of 1767. Inspired by Montesquieu's spirit of the laws, she summoned 560 delegates from all estates except serfs to draft a new legal code. Her Nakar's instruction, a 655-article manifesto, advocated religious tolerance, education, and limited monarchy, radical for autocratic Russia. The sovereign is the source of all power, she declared, but hinted at checks. Delegates debated fiercely in Moscow's faceted palace, but class divisions stalled progress. Nobles demanded serf rights, merchants sought trade freedoms. By 1768, the Russo-Turkish War forced adjournment, and the commission dissolved without a code. Yet, it was a PR triumph. Europe hailed her as Semiramis of the North. Voltaire, her pen pal for 15 years, praising her as Enlightenment incarnate. Expansion defined her foreign policy. Russia, vulnerable on multiple fronts, needed buffers. The First Russo-Turkish War 1768-1774 erupted over Ottoman incursions in Poland. Catherine's generals, including Orlov, crushed Turkish forces, capturing Crimea and Black Sea ports. The Treaty of Kakanarka 1774 granted Russian navigation rights, protector status over Ottoman Christians, and Crimea's independence annexed in 1783. This war cost 20,000 Russian lives, but added 100,000 square kilometers, transforming Russia into a Black Sea power. Meanwhile, Poland's petitions 177 to 1793, 1795 with Prussia and Austria erased the nation, adding Lithuania, Ukraine and Belarus another 500,000 square kilometers. Catherine justified it as stabilizing borders, but it was naked imperialism. I have no other way to defend my frontiers, she quipped. Internally, challenges mounted. Serfdom bound 50% of Russians to land, fueling resentment. The 1773 Pugachev rebellion exploded like wildfire. Emelian Pugachev, a Cossack deserter, impersonated the resurrected Peter III, promising to abolish serfdom and taxes. Rallying Cossacks, Bashkirs, and peasants, he captured Kazan and besieged Orenburg, slaughtering nobles. Catherine, mid-war with Turks, downplayed it initially, but soon mobilized. This monster must be crushed, she ordered. General Alexander Bibikov quelled early uprisings, but Pugachev's forces swelled to 25,000. After Turkish peace, reinforcements under General Michelson routed him. Captured in 1774, Pugachev was caged to Moscow, quartered publicly in 1775. Catherine's response? Harsh. She executed thousands, branded rebels, and tightened serf controls via the 1775 provincial reforms, dividing Russia into 50 governorates. With noble oversight, this suppressed unrest but entrenched inequality. A contradiction in her enlightened rule. As her power solidified, whispers of scandal grew. Enemies, French revolutionaries, conservative monarchs, exiled nobles, couldn't defeat her armies, so they attacked her character. Her lovers, now including Grigory Potemkin 1774 to 1776, a visionary general, became fodder for satire. Potemkin, her secret husband per rumors, co-ruled informally, conquering Crimea and building Potemkin villages, facades to impress her. Tours, their bond evolved into platonic partnership, but Europe twisted it into debauchery. Little did they know, these smears were precursors to the ultimate lie. How does one woman turn a backward behemoth into a European powerhouse? Catherine's mid-reign answers that with a blend of vision, violence and virtuosity. As scandals simmered in whispers, she unleashed reforms that dazzled the world. But at what cost? Buckle up as we explore her cultural boom, territorial grabs, and the Enlightenment facade masking autocratic steel. If this hooks you, like and subscribe to the History VEIL, unveiling history one layer at a time. Catherine's cultural patronage was legendary, a voracious reader up to 12 hours daily. She amassed 44,000 volumes, corresponding with Voltaire, over 100 letters and Diderot, whom she hosted in 1773. You are my teacher, she told Voltaire. funding his works while he dubbed her the only true philosopher on a throne. She founded the Hermitage in 1764, initially a private pavilion, evolving into a world-class museum with Rembrandts, Rubenses, and antiquities bought en masse. Liked 125 paintings from Berlin in 1764. By her death, it housed the 1,000 artworks symbolizing Russia's cultural ascent. Education reforms targeted elites. The Smolny Institute 1,764 educated noble girls in sciences and arts, producing Russia's first female intellectuals. She established public schools in provinces, though underfunded, aiming for universal literacy. A pipe dream in serf-bound Russia. Administrative overhauls followed Pugachev's wake. The 1775 Statute for Provincial Administration reorganized Russia into governorships, separating judicial, executive, and fiscal powers inspired by Montesquieu. Nobles gained charters in 1785, exempting them from corporal punishment and taxes, solidifying their loyalty. But serfs, their plight worsened. The charter codified their bondage, allowing sales without land. Catherine's enlightened absolutism shone selectively. She abolished torture 1774 and state monopolies but crushed dissent. Her 1783 police ordinance created urban boards for order, but surveillance stifled freedom. Wars propelled her legacy. The Second Russo-Turkish War 1787-1791, sparked by Ottoman revanchism, saw Potemkin's brilliance, sieges of Ochakov and Ismail immortalized in poetry. The Treaty of Jassy 1792 ceded Crimea fully, adding Odessa's port. These victories cost 100,000 lives but secured southern frontiers, enabling Black Sea trade. The Polish partitions, meanwhile, were diplomatic masterstrokes. The first 1772 took 30% of Poland amid its anarchy. Catherine installed Poniatowski as puppet king. The second 1793 followed Kosciuszko's uprising, adding Vilnius. The third 1795 obliterated Poland, incorporating Warsaw. Russia gained 120 million acres, 6 million subjects, but sowed nationalism's seeds. Exploding in 1830, the Greek project 1780s revealed her grandiosity, allying Austria to dismantle the Ottomans, reviving Byzantium with her grandson Constantine as emperor. It fizzled after Turkish wars, but underscored her as history's architect. Domestically, she promoted vaccination, inoculating herself first in 1768 and founded hospitals, reducing smallpox deaths. Economic reforms encouraged foreign investment. British engineers built canals, boosting trade to 44 million rubles annually. Yet, contradictions abounded. While Voltaire praised her, Pugachev exposed serfdom's rot. Catherine initially toyed with emancipation. Her knockers critiqued it, but post-rebellion, she expanded noble powers. Serfs are necessary for stability, she rationalized, ignoring 200-plus peasant uprisings. Compared to contemporaries like Maria Theresa, Austria's reformer, or Frederick the Great, Prussia's militarist, Catherine blended their traits enlightened. Like Frederick, maternal like Maria, but uniquely expansive. Her personal life intertwined with policy. After Potemkin, favorites like Alexander Lanskoy (1779–1784) and Platon Zubov (1789–1796) were younger. Often Potemkin vetted, Zubov, 20 to her 60, influenced late policies. But Catherine retained control. Rumors exaggerated. She had perhaps 12 lovers total, not hundreds, each monogamous and politically useful. Europe's double standard raged. Louis XV's mistresses were romantic, hers scandalous. French pornographic pamphlets, like The Private Life of Catherine II, 1780s, depicted her as nymphomaniac. Precursors to the horse myth, daughter's age crept in. Catherine's health faltered, but her mind sharpened. She authored plays, operas, and memoirs, founding the Russian Academy 1783 to standardize language. Her legacy: a Russia doubled in size, culturally vibrant but socially fractured. The myth's roots: envy from defeated foes, Ottomans, Poles. French revolutionaries she condemned after 1789's Bastille fall. She banned radical books. Fearing Jacobinism, this enlightened empress, who once dreamed of liberty, became its jailer. Can absolute power corrupt absolutely, even in an enlightened soul? Catherine's later years exposed the raw humanity behind the crown. Passionate affairs, brutal suppressions and scandals that foreshadowed her posthumous defamation. As we delve into her intimate world and the fires she extinguished, ask yourself, was she a liberator or a tyrant? Stay tuned, the twists will keep you riveted. Subscribe now to the History Veil for more unfiltered history. Catherine's lovers were more than tabloid fodder, they were pillars of her regime. Post-Potemkin, who remained her confidant until his 1791 death, she favored youth for vitality. Lanskoy, a gentle guardsman, shared her intellectual pursuits. His 1780 for death, possibly typhus, devastated her. I have lost my best friend, she mourned, building him a mausoleum. Maimonov 1786 to 1789 betrayed her by marrying a maid. She exiled him but gifted estates. Zubov, her final favorite, wielded influence, pushing anti-French policies amid the revolution. Historians count 12 to 15 paramours, each feted, rewarded over 100 million rubles total, and dismissed gracefully. Unlike Henry VIII's executions, Catherine's exes thrived. Orlov became a diplomat, Potemkin a prince. This serial monogamy, as biographer Robert Massey terms it, challenged gender norms. A woman must rule like a man, she said, but society demanded chastity. Scandals arose from this. Prussian envoys spread tales of her erotic cabinet, a fictional room of phallic furniture, debunked but persistent. Her illegitimate children, Bobrinsky and possibly others, were raised discreetly. Paul's resentment festered, convinced she usurped his throne, and perhaps fathered by Saltykov, he despised her. Catherine considered bypassing him for grandson Alexander, but died before acting. The Pugachev Rebellion 1773 to 1775 was her greatest internal threat, revealing reforms. Limits. Pugachev, born 1740 in Don Cossack lands, deserted the army, wandering as a healer. In 1773, amid Cossack grievances over lost autonomies, he proclaimed himself Peter III. Escaped from Catherine's clutches, his manifesto promised land, freedom, and tax abolition, rallying 100,000 Cossacks, Bashkirs, Tatars, factory workers, serfs. They sacked forts, burned manors, killing 3,000 nobles. Pugachev's court mimicked royalty, issuing decrees from Peter. Catherine, embroiled in Turkish war, initially offered 500 rubles bounty, calling him a marauder. But as he torched Kayes in July 1774, panic spread. The empire trembles, she admitted privately. Her response was merciless. After Turkish peace, she dispatched General Peter Panin with 20,000 troops. Battles raged. Pugachev's defeat at Tsaritsyn, August 1774, turned the tide. Betrayed by comrades, he was captured September 1774, interrogated in an iron cage en route to Moscow. His January 1775 execution, beheaded then quartered before a jeering crowd, was spectacle. Body, parts displayed, on spikes. Catherine ordered villages razed, rebels branded P for Pugachev. Thousands hanged along Volga roads. Terror must restore order, she justified. Post-rebellion, she reformed Cossack hosts, abolishing their self-rule and tightened serf laws. Allowing nobles fuller control, this quelled unrest but alienated masses. Contradicting her Narkaz's equality rhetoric, psychologically, it scarred her. Once idealistic, hosting Diderot for debates, she grew cynical. The people are children, she wrote, abandoning emancipation dreams. Comparisons to Elizabeth I of England abound, both childless. Queens with lovers facing rebellion's Essex. For Elizabeth, using culture to legitimize rule. But Catherine's scale dwarfed. Her empire spanned 11 time zones. As the French Revolution erupted 1789, Catherine condemned it, harboring émigrés but fearing contagion. She censored Voltaire's works ironically, establishing secret police. Health declined, strokes in 1791 and 1796, obesity from sedentary life. Yet she worked tirelessly. Rising at 5 a.m. for state papers, scandals intensified. Rivals defeated. Poles, Ottoman sultans, revolutionary France weaponized her sexuality. Pornographic engravings circulated in Paris depicting her with beasts. The horse myth's origins? Likely French salons post-1789. Blending her equestrian portraits, she rode astride like men with bestiality tropes from ancient. Smears like Cleopatra. No contemporary evidence. Doctors confirmed her November 17, 1796. Death from cerebral hemorrhage after a bathroom collapse. But Paul, ascending, refused autopsies, letting rumors fester. What happens when a woman's power outlives her, only to be twisted by those she crushed? Catherine's death birthed the horse scandal, a myth so enduring it overshadows her triumphs. In this finale, we debunk the lie, dissect its origins, and reclaim her legacy. If you've made it this far, you're a true history seeker. Like, subscribe to the History Veil, and share to spread the truth. Let's end this veil once and for all. On November 6, 1796 Old Style. November 17th New. Catherine suffered a stroke in her private chambers, collapsing mid-routine. Servants found her unresponsive. Doctors diagnosed apoplexy. She lingered comatose for 36 hours, dying at 9:45 p.m., aged 67. Witnesses, including Zubov, confirmed no scandal. It was a mundane end for an extraordinary life. Her body lay in state, buried in Peter and Paul fortress beside predecessors, but not Peter III, whom Paul exhumed and reburied mockingly beside her. The myth exploded post-mortem. Origins traced to French revolutionaries. Resenting her anti-Jacobin stance, she called them monsters. Conservative courts, Vienna, Berlin, envied her dominance. Exiled Poles and Turks added fuel. The tale. Catherine, bored of men, rigged a pulley for equine intercourse. It snapped, crushing her. Absurdities abound, physically impossible. Horse anatomy, wait. Logistically ridiculous palace secrecy. No 18th century sources mention it. Earliest prints in 1790s French libel. As biographer John T. Alexander notes in Catherine the Great, Life and Legend 1989, it's pornographic propaganda akin to Marie Antoinette smears. Why stuck? Misogyny. Powerful women like Cleopatra or in Berlin faced sexual defamation. Catherine, ruling like a man, was unforgivable. Her equestrianism, painted on horseback, founding studs, twisted into perversion. Paul's hatred amplified it. He destroyed her papers, spread doubts. By 1800s, it infiltrated travelogues. 19th century historians like Kazimierz Wilishevsky sensationalized. Today, debunked by experts, the British Museum holds no erotic furniture. Her death certificate cites stroke. Psychology Today 2005 calls it anatomy of a rumor. Shock value trumps truth. Catherine's legacy? Transformative. She expanded Russia by 200,000 square miles from Baltic to Pacific. Reforms modernized administration, education, 1,000 plus schools. Medicine. Culturally, she birthed Russian literature's golden age, patronizing Pushkin precursors. Economically, population grew from 19 to 37 million, trade tripled. But shadows, serfdom entrenched, leading to 1917 revolution. Petitions fueled Polish resentment. WWII echoes. Compared to peers, outshone Frederick's militarism with diplomacy. Rivaled Joseph's reforms but succeeded where he failed. A serial monogamist per biography.com, her lovers empowered, not weakened her. Voltaire's northern star burned bright, illuminating Europe's enlightenment while ruling Autocratically. In the end, the myth reveals more about society than Catherine. Powerful women are defeated by stories, as the original transcript notes, but excavate beneath and she emerges formidable, brilliant, brutal, unapologetic. History remembers her not for the lie, but the empire she forged. Thanks for watching the History Veil. If this blew your mind, like, comment your thoughts. Subscribe for more and share far and wide. Until next time, keep questioning the veils.